Welcome to another Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. Today we're going to talk about the #1 mistake people make with null in their Microsoft Access databases. Hint, null ain't null. Null isn't equal to anything, even itself. Plus, we got answers to your YouTube comments, questions, stuff I get emailed, and lots more. So it's Quick Queries number 60. Happy Friday. Here we go. First up today, we have a question from Tim, who posted this in the forums on my website. And I'd like to say that I'm actually thrilled that I finally got to help someone in my own forums today, and the forums on my own website. Usually by the time I see a question in the forums, the moderators or some of the other students have already answered it. But today I happened to catch this one like right after it was posted, so I was able to help. In fact, that's one of the reasons I don't help out on other websites. I used to help out a lot on different websites and like Reddit threads and stuff like that. But it's like by the time I see questions now, they're already all answered. So I don't get a chance. That's why most of the stuff you see here in the quick queries is stuff that was either emailed to me or was a YouTube comment. And usually when students email me something, I'm like, post it in the forums because you got a better chance of getting a faster answer there because I get way too many emails. But sometimes if it's a good question, I'll throw it in a quick queries video. And YouTube, I'm the only one that does the moderation there. I think I set Alex up as a moderator on YouTube years ago, but he never seems to do anything there. I don't know. Anyways, Tim posted a question. He's trying to say basically, if the company name is null, then I want to use the first name. Otherwise, if there is a company name, use the company name. And I see this mistake a lot, especially from beginners, because null is one of those tricky concepts. It doesn't behave like zero or an empty string or even a blank field. Null means unknown. And by definition, an unknown can never equal anything, not even another unknown. That's why if you ask Access, does null equal null, the answer is false. All right, so to handle null, you need the right tools. There's special operators and a special function designed just to deal with nulls. So, null does not mean zero. It doesn't mean empty string. It doesn't mean anything except null. It's unknown or no value, right? And no value can ever equal null, not even another null. So, null equals null is false. If you say, does null equal null in Access, it'll say false. I was going to say the word nothing there, nothing equals null, but that's a whole separate term. There's actually a term in Access called nothing used for object variables. That's a whole different video. So, in Access, you got two different ways to check for null. There's the ISNULL function. There's the ISNULL operator or is not null. You never say equals null. Okay? So ISNULL and is not null, you'll see this used in queries or SQL statements. It's an operator. So you'd say, for example, if you know SQL, right, select all the fields from customer table where company name is null or company name is not null. If you're a beginner still and you're not writing SQL statements yet, right, you have a criteria for your query for your field. You put is null or is not null right there in the criteria field. Okay? Now, is null, with no space between is and null, is null is a function that returns a value, true or false. Okay? It's used in expressions and in VBA. So, for example, in a query, you might say, make me a new calculated field called display name. Use the if function, right, immediate if, and you're going to say if is null company. This will return a true or a false value. Okay? And then if works by saying if this is true, use the first value, otherwise use the second value. So if the company name is null, then use the first name, otherwise use company name. It's the same thing you'll see in VBA written out this way. These are two exact identical statements, right? If is null company, then display name equals first name, otherwise display name equals company name. And again, here's a simpler version for the beginners, right? Display name, and then use the if function, is null, company name, first name, and so on. Okay? So we will never say if first name equals null. That's bad. Nothing equals null, not even null. And you'll never put it inside an if function. If first name equals null, that's bad too. That's why these are in red. Red means bad. So Tim, to answer your question, right? All you want to do is replace this stuff here with if is null company name. Okay, not company name equals null. And a few other things. You don't need to specify full name Q dot in all of these places if that's the only thing in your query. If this is based on just that one query. If you got other tables or queries joined in, then yes, leave those there. Okay? And since you're good and you haven't used spaces in your field names, you technically don't need those brackets too, although Access usually throws those on there for you. But this is the simplest version of what you need right there, assuming you only have one table or query in your query. Now, a little bit of an advanced trick here. If you want to make it even easier or even shorter, right, you can use the NZ function. NZ stands for null to zero, which usually it's used for numeric fields. You're basically saying if this value is null, make it 0. But you could specify whatever the make it value is here. So this basically says if company name is null, then use full name. So it's a shorter way of writing that out. And you'll see this a lot with DLOOKUPs, a little more advanced. So in review, you almost never check to see if something equals null with the equal sign because nothing equals null. Not even null itself. That's why Access gives us the is null operator or is not null or the is null function. And if you want a handy dandy way to remember it, null ain't null. In other words, null will never equal null. So don't try to see if anything else is equal to null. Right? Maybe this should go on a t-shirt or a mouse pad or a coffee mug. Put it in the store. Now, I got a whole bunch of other videos on my website dealing with null, and I work with it a lot in my full course. But here is a fast tip video explaining the basics of null. Start here. Watch this. Watch this video on zero-length strings. A lot of people get null values confused with zero-length strings. Here's a video on null math. Yes, you can actually rely on values being null and put that together with some concatenation, and you get some cool results. So check this one out. And here's a video on that NZ function. All right, these are all free videos. They're on my website. They're on my YouTube channel. Go check them out. I'll put links down below. Speaking of my YouTube channel, let's head over to the comments. I did a little conversation starter. I'm going to do these once in a while. I love doing these. I love getting your feedback and learning what you guys think about stuff. So this week's conversation starter, I posted, what is the one feature in Access you wish Microsoft would improve and update? I got a ton of replies. I'm going to go over a couple of them. Jim says, how about additional options to conditional formatting? Yes, absolutely, Microsoft. Excel has some fantastic conditional formatting options. Access, the redhead stepchild needs a little bit of love there. So great idea, Jim. Dom says he'd like to see a better implementation of the tab control. Yeah, the tab control is one of those things where when it was first released, it was buggy as hell. I did not like it. I still don't like it. I still don't use it. I don't like the tab control. It'll work simply, but try integrating it with some VBA and stuff, and it becomes a nightmare. They fixed a lot of the problems that I initially had with it, but you know how once you get a bad taste or something, you just don't go back to it. I don't like the tab controls. And he says, would you dedicate a video to the subform control? I got a lot of videos on subforms. The one you're looking for where I used a subform control to simulate a tabbed page, that was in my association database series, part 8. And you're looking for this thing right here, right? Where I click on this. These are basically labels. You click on the label and it switches what's in the subform. It changes the subform object property, which is, I think, is much, much better than using a tab control. I also show something similar in part 1 of my ABCD, where we've got little tabs to switch between the different things for each customer. Same thing. Excel Intelligente says he'd like to see Access automatically repairing and fixing the file when closing. You can do a compact and repair on close. I don't recommend it. I think you should do compact and repair like weekly, well, depending on the usage of your database. But I don't like doing a compact and repair on close. You should compact your back-end databases maybe once a week with an event, or do it manually. Preventing it from growing unnecessarily in size, that's exactly what compact and repair is supposed to do. I have mine run, I think, every Sunday at like 4 a.m. And every week it squeezes 2, 3, sometimes 5% out of it. And it's just getting rid of all those, things that were deleted, temporary data files, that kind of stuff. And of course, don't load it up with images and file attachments and stuff that doesn't belong in there. As far as more form properties and professional design like Visual Studio, yep, absolutely. Kevin says adjustable font sizes of property sheets and controls, yep, When you make it bigger, it should make the fonts bigger, the controls bigger. They're supposed to be adding Zoom very soon. It's been on the Access roadmap for a while now, for a couple months now. So it was supposed to be out in September. Now it's been pushed back to October. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, next month. I'm looking forward to it myself because I got a pretty big monitor. And I like to be able to zoom in on stuff. And large monitor support's supposed to be coming too. So I'm excited for that. Gracie says, like the photo, good looking, good. That's actually a picture of me that I kind of had AI make look like I'm doing that, like looking up to the side. That's not really a real photo. That's my face, but it's a little photo trickery. So, but I know what you're saying there as far as the appearance should not be that of Access. I know a lot of people want to develop databases and make it not look like it's Access. In fact, I did a 2-part series on how to make your database not look like it's Access, but to the average everyday user, you can get away with it, but to someone who really knows what they're doing, they'll be able to tell it's Access. But yeah, you can pass it off to most people as not being Access. Hussein says connecting with AI. Yeah, I'd like to see them add some AI features built into Access, like Copilot, which they got in Word and Excel and all that, which, you know, again, redheaded stepchild. But check out my OpenAI videos. See, if Microsoft's not going to build it into Access, we'll have to build it in ourselves, right? Check this out. This user says exporting to docx, which is a Word document instead of RTF. Yeah, that'd be nice if you could take an Access report and have it export directly to a Word document that's actually fully editable. You could do a PDF if all you want to do is share it or print it or whatever. But yeah, that'd be nice. You can do a lot of things with Word automation. In fact, I've got a video here that I teach you a little bit of Word automation. That's to take some data out of your Access database and to create a Word document and add that stuff to the Word document using VBA. And with that technique, you can do a lot of stuff. Like half of my handbooks are built using some Word automation. It adds the picture and it formats all the fonts and it adds the headings and all that stuff. So you can do a lot of stuff. I haven't covered a ton of it in my lessons, but I'm going to be soon, eventually. So we'll get there. But yeah, it can be done, but it'd be nice if it was built into Access automatically, yeah. Greg's Dragon says allow developers to make an executable out of their database front ends. Yeah, that would be super cool. Years ago, I used to use Install Shield, it was called, to take an Access database, and it would package everything up that you needed, including all the executables, the runtimes, and all that, to make a distributable version of your Access database. I haven't played with anything like this in recent years, so I'm not exactly sure myself what's out there. I haven't had a need to do this. Microsoft does have the Access runtime, which means if you do want to give your database to someone else to use who doesn't have Access, all they have to do is install the free runtime edition. But it's still not the same as giving them like a file that installs everything for them with your database. So I see where you're going with that, but I don't know what's out there right now myself. I haven't researched it in a couple of years. So if anyone else has any good products that they use to do this, let me know. Dardiv says a proper Gantt chart. Yeah, that'd be nice. I built one myself a couple of years ago. Built the template out of it here. It's not as flexible as what you can do with some other software, but if you really need a Gantt chart in Access, this'll do it. It's not as feature packed as like even Excel is, but it gets the job done. Mostly this was a project that I wanted to build to see if it could be done, but it's a good stepping stone if you want to take it and customize it for what you need. Andrew says the ability to resort ID numbers, to which I'm going to remind you that, remember, auto numbers are not for your use. They're for Access to make relationships and to make sure that records have a unique identifier. If you want to do something like you have there with the ABC1, ABC2, you do need to create your own custom counter. I got videos to show you how to do it, but you're right. You need a little coding to do that. It's not easy to do. It'd be nice if they had some kind of a beginner level counter field, for example, that just automatically did it. But yeah, here's this video. This talks about what auto numbers are used for and what they should not be used for. And here's a video that teaches you how to set up your own counters. Aslan says, add regular expressions to the SQL engine, no custom VBA function. They did make an update recently where it comes to regex. The guys over at Access Forever just posted, Philip just posted an article, because VB script is going away. It's built into Windows, and that's what handles regular expressions. But they recently just added it as a library in VBA. So you'll still be able to continue to use it. I haven't played with it yet myself, to be honest with you. But check this article out for more information. I will post a link to it down below. And thanks always to the guys for Access Forever. If you're not subscribed to these guys, do it. They don't post a lot of stuff, but they post a lot of good stuff. I get a lot of my news from them and from Mike Wolf over at No Longer Set. Easy Speak says, definitely the developer section of its offline help file. Yeah, that is pretty old. That could use some updating. That's a lot of work, though. Speaking as someone who writes handbooks, or who used to write handbooks, I have AI do it, and my human editors fix it up for me now, but I used to write them myself, and it's a lot of work updating help files. But yeah, it should probably be done. But then again, if they had really good help files, you guys wouldn't need me. So... Fuego says, yes, ability to zoom into the work area. I'm getting old. Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Excel and Word can zoom in and out. Why can't Access? So it's supposed to be coming. Fingers crossed. Got a lot of feedback on the Quick Queries 59 last week about why IT pros hate Access. And a few people said that they don't like it because it's not web-based, which I'll give you that. Access is not, nor has it ever been marketed to be a web-based database. It's desktop only. But they used to have the Access data pages, right? The web apps that you could build that they got rid of. I think with the Access 2016, they axed those. They never really worked right, but yeah, it's ripe. I've been working on something myself, but it's still far from releasable. But yeah, that'd be nice if Microsoft built something like that in. It wouldn't be hard because they already have a path for you to migrate your data up to SQL Server. Now you just need the ability to take an Access form and turn that into a web page. So that's kind of what I'm working on, but it's slow going. I got it working in its simplest form, but you know, adding VBA behind the scenes is the tough part. A few people have said that their IT departments hate Access and refuse to help with Access questions. That's probably because they don't know Access. And more than a couple of people have told me that as IT professionals, you guys hate having to help people with their problems with Excel or Word. Yeah, I used to get this a lot too. Everyone they think that because you're a computer guy, right, you know everything there is to know about everything on computers. This might have been true 50 years ago when it was possible to kind of know everything about PCs. Well, not 50, maybe 40 years ago. But now it's like, yeah, like I tell people I teach computers and they're like, oh, asking me questions about something I've never even used before. So it's like, oh, sorry. So now when people ask me, I'm very specific. I say I make video tutorials to teach Microsoft Access mostly. And then they go, oh, okay. And then they move on to the next topic. Okay. But never have I run into someone that like was, oh, really? I work with Access every day. I never. That's why I don't mention Excel at all, because everybody uses Excel. Scotty says, in finance and accounting and all the jobs he's had, no one wants to deal with learning Access. So I'm forced to write everything in Excel Power Query. Yeah, that's definitely true. Because Excel is a lot easier to get started with and to feel like you're making progress right out the box, because you can pretty much type anything anywhere you want. So you don't have to learn structure and how to build queries and stuff. So Access is one of those things where if you take the time to learn it up front, it can be a lot more powerful, but people don't take the time. Send them to me. Mohammed says, people hate because after creating your software in Access, you still need a license key to use it. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that. You mean by if you build a database and you want to give it to someone else, they have to buy Access? See my earlier comment that I made about the runtime. They can just install the runtime and use your database for free. So that's that, right? The only person who needs a paid copy of Access is the person who is developing. That's you. Off topic, but fingerprint system. Access doesn't support fingerprint readers natively, but different fingerprint readers sometimes come with their own SDKs, software development kits. I have yet to play with one. I do have fingerprint readers on all of my laptops, and they're all the same model. I have yet to look into seeing if I could figure out how to get the fingerprint reader to work for logging into Access. I got it working logging into my websites, but not my website, but the different websites that I use. and logging into Windows itself with the Windows Hello. But if enough of you want to see how to get access to work with fingerprint readers, let me know. Maybe I'll do a little research. If more than a couple of people are interested, maybe I'll look into it. Here's a story I see quite a lot. Mark, who's now retired, designed access programs for several companies. And then they hired an IT guy or IT firm to create a more professional version that didn't work properly. And then after a year, the failure became even worse. So now the client is back working with the access program and realizes they're very satisfied with it. Yes. See? So I hear this a lot, not just from you. I hear this story all kinds of times. Oh, we hired this consulting firm. They said they can make us web-based and enterprise level this and blah, blah, blah. $30,000 later, it's still not as good as our access database was. Yeah. Common story. The last two companies I worked for don't even allow it to be installed on machines without explicit permission. Yeah, I've seen that. I mean, I get why some companies do that. They don't want, if it's something that the company's not going to support, they don't want you building something that becomes crucial for your job, and then you leave that job or they get rid of you, and then nobody else understands how your access database works. So I kind of get that. They want their employees to stick with Word or Excel or whatever because the next guy can come along and more easily figure it out. But yeah, that's not a good excuse. It's just an excuse. Apple Intosh says if VBA could natively support Git, then I think it would be get more buy-in from IT professionals. Source control and access database kind of sucks. Yeah, it's pretty much non-existent without an add-in. From what I've heard and what I've read, they're going to be adding some kind of source control to access. It's still not there yet, but I'm going to be doing a little more on this myself in the near future. Alex, my right-hand man, Alex, has been wearing on me for years to get involved with source control and access, and I've been fighting it because I've always been a one-man developer. So my source control is I make a backup copy before I make changes. If the changes are good, I'm good. If not, I go back to the backup and figure out what I did wrong. So that's always been my source control. So I've always felt that source control works best in teams. But I get it. I understand. It's nice to go back and see what the changes were and what you might have broke and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm slowly wearing down to agree that working with source control might be good with access. What do you guys think? Do you use source control in other projects that you work with? Darabello says, I love Access, been using it for 10 years, yet I hate it, especially the SQL text editor. I'm sure that Microsoft is sabotaging it to force users to adopt SQL Server. Oh, I would not say that. SQL Server has been around for a very, very long time, and Microsoft has always held that, for bigger databases and for corporate security, you should use SQL Server for your data, for your tables and your queries and stuff. That has never changed, and I don't think that Microsoft is sabotaging the SQL editor. Now Access, the classic version of Access, has a plain SQL editor, which I still use, the older version. They are working on a new Monaco editor, which has been out for a little while now, but it's got some bugs, so I'm holding off on adopting it. I like to wait until they've finished something and it's bug-free before I start teaching it and making videos about it. But it looks snazzy. And once they fix some of the issues they've got, I'll be definitely doing some videos on it. But Microsoft isn't sabotaging it. Now, Microsoft doesn't give Access the love it deserves. I mean, most Access developers will say that. The Access, the amount of resources that Microsoft spends on Access could be tripled easily because it's a fantastic program that thousands of businesses use to run their businesses. But, yeah, I mean, Microsoft has been saying that the upgrade path for your data is SQL Server for decades. So, and I agree. When if you're running a business with sensitive data, you really should have it in SQL Server. Mark says it's not SaaS, software as a service, which everyone is now pushing for. Yeah, unfortunately. Unlike Word, Excel, and Outlook, you can't run Access from Microsoft 365. Yeah, Access is still desktop only, whereas Word, Excel, and Outlook have the web-based versions now, which I don't like. I don't use them. Unless I'm in a pinch and I'm somewhere else, like I don't have my computer with me. And even then, I still don't like them. I prefer the desktop applications. But it would be nice if they had, Access part of the online 365 suite. That would be sweet, but it's not there yet. But I agree. Have an online version of Access that runs just like the desktop version that connects to SQL Server. Oh, that would be the killer app for Microsoft to release right there. Well, folks, that's about going to do it for this week's Quick Queries. I hope you learned something. Live long and prosper, my friends. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button right now and give me a like. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. And make sure you click that bell icon and select all to receive notifications whenever I post a new video. Do you need help with your Microsoft Access project? Whether you need a tutor, a consultant, or a developer to build something for you, check out my Access Developer Network. It's a directory I put together personally of Access experts who can help with your project. Visit my website to learn more. Any links or other resources that I mentioned in the video can be found in the description text below the video. Just click on that Show More link right there. YouTube's pretty good about hiding that, but it's there. Just look for it. Now, if you have not yet tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, tables, all that stuff. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or my YouTube channel. I'll include a link below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? And if you like Level 1, Level 2 is just $1. That's it. And it's free for members of my YouTube channel at any level. Speaking of memberships, if you're interested in joining my channel, you get all kinds of awesome perks. Silver members get access to all of my extended cut TechHelp videos, and there's hundreds of them by now. They also get one free beginner class each month, and yes, those are from my full courses. Gold members get the previous perks plus access to download all of the sample databases that I build in my TechHelp videos. Plus, you get access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions and all kinds of source code that I use. And gold members get one free expert class every month after completing the beginner series. Platinum members get all of the previous perks, plus they get all of my beginner courses, all of them from every subject. And you get one free advanced or developer class every month after finishing the expert series. And you can become a diamond sponsor and have your name listed on the sponsor page on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time.